Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Today, we analyse the selection of the All Blacks head coach not merely as a staffing decision, but as a profound lesson in leadership, culture, and how an organisation confronts its past in order to move toward the future. If you find these reflections valuable, please subscribe to the channel so we can read, think, and learn together every day. The story surrounding the selection of a new head coach for New Zealand's national rugby team, the All Blacks, is not simply a matter of personnel. It deeply reflects governance culture, the way an organisation treats its legacy, and the long-term vision of New Zealand rugby. Reading and reflecting carefully, I find myself filled with mixed emotions, regret, concern, and many unanswered questions about how one of the world's leading rugby nations is confronting its own core values. First, the image of Ian Foster emerges as a symbol of calmness, acceptance, and understanding. At the age of 60, having led the All Blacks at the 2023 World Cup, Foster fully meets the criteria that New Zealand rugby set for the new head coach role. Yet what is striking is that he did not expect, indeed, was almost certain, that he would not even be contacted. This is not merely the story of an individual being overlooked, but of someone who understands the system he once belonged to all too well. Foster appears to have accepted this reality with composure, without bitterness, without attack, simply stating the truth in a very All Blacks manner, calm, disciplined, and placing the collective above personal ego. What impresses me most is that Foster continues to show deep love for New Zealand, for rugby, and for the All Blacks, despite having been treated in ways many would consider unfair. In Martin Devlin's account, Foster speaks little about himself and instead focuses on predicting the team's future. This shows that he still places the All Blacks at the centre, even when he himself is no longer part of the union's plans. Such generosity of spirit is rare, especially in elite sport, where pride and personal ego often loom large.
From a personal perspective, I believe that not contacting someone like Ian Foster, even just for consultation, is a regrettable waste. It is not necessary to invite him back as head coach, but leveraging the knowledge, experience, and perspective of minds that have stood at the pinnacle is something any major organisation should do. New Zealand rugby does not lack talent, but as Devlin noted, New Zealand is a small country, and precisely because it is small, it should not close itself off due to personal conflicts or old prejudices. The story becomes more complex and multidimensional when other names are mentioned, such as Jamie Joseph, Tony Brown, John Mitchell, and Sir Steve Hansen. Foster's prediction that Jamie Joseph would be the most suitable head coach candidate shows that he views the issue strategically rather than emotionally. Joseph has international experience, enjoyed success with Japan, and has a long-standing relationship with Foster. This opens up an intriguing possibility, a blend of old and new, of modern thinking grounded in the traditional foundations of the All Blacks. Tony Brown, meanwhile, represents a rising generation of ambitious and driven coaches. His open declaration that he hopes one day to coach the All Blacks reflects honesty and clarity in his career aspirations. What earns my deepest respect, however, is his professionalism in remaining fully committed to his current contract with the Springboks and SA Rugby. In a sporting world where broken agreements and mid-contract departures are far from rare, Brown's consistency and respect for commitments are truly valuable traits. Rassie Erasmus's comments about Tony Brown also provoke reflection. Erasmus speaks not only as a head coach, but as a seasoned figure who understands a colleague's longing for home. He accepts that if Brown receives an offer from the All Blacks after 2027, he would not stand in his way. This demonstrates a leadership culture worth learning from, one that does not retain people through emotional leverage or power, but through respect and understanding. When comparing this to how New Zealand rugby has allegedly treated certain coaches in the past, I cannot help but wonder, is the issue with individuals, or with the way the entire system operates? The case of John Mitchell troubles me the most. A coach who led the All Blacks from 2001 to 2003 was dismissed amid bitterness, and more than 20 years later still has not been contacted or seriously engaged in conversation. As Devlin rightly says, 23 years is long enough for anyone to change, mature, and evolve. Judging a person today based on what they did, or were accused of doing, more than 2 decades ago is unfair and short-sighted. Here, I am not arguing that John Mitchell is necessarily the right choice for head coach. But not reaching out at all, not listening, not exchanging views, is a different matter altogether. It reflects a closed mindset, where old scars continue to dictate present decisions. This is particularly dangerous in elite sport, where renewal and continuous learning are vital to survival. Sir Steve Hansen's situation is similar. One of the most successful coaches in All Blacks history, possessing immense knowledge and experience, appears to stand entirely outside the process. Devlin's question, why not, is deeply thought-provoking. Why not make use of minds like Hansen or Foster, at least in advisory roles? Could it be that personal conflicts, dating back to the Scott Robertson era, still cast too long a shadow? And if so, then this is no longer a technical issue, but one of organizational culture. I strongly agree with the view that New Zealand is simply too small a country to disregard any valuable source of knowledge. The All Blacks are not just a team, they are a national symbol and a source of cultural pride. Every decision concerning them should be transparent, open, and oriented toward long-term benefit. Consulting current coaches about players, and listening to players' views on coaches, is not a sign of weakness, but of a confident and mature system. Taken as a whole, this story is not only about who will become the next head coach of the All Blacks. It reflects a sensitive transitional phase in New Zealand rugby. After the departure of Scott Robertson, the union faces an opportunity to renew itself, heal old fractures, and build a more sustainable future. But that opportunity can only become reality if it is willing to open up, listen, and learn from those who once helped create the All Blacks' glory. On a personal emotional level, there is a gentle sadness running through the story, the sadness of people who love rugby and love the All Blacks, yet no longer feel that they belong to the system. Still, intertwined with that sadness is hope. Hope that with people like Jamie Joseph, Tony Brown, or even Ian Foster in some capacity, the All Blacks can rediscover a balance between tradition and innovation. Ultimately, what I take away is this: in sport, as in life, how we treat the past largely determines the future. If the past is seen only as a burden, or a source of conflict, it will hinder progress. But if it is recognized as a reservoir of experience, containing both successes and failures, it can become a solid foundation for the next steps forward. For the All Blacks, and for New Zealand rugby, this may well be the most important lesson to emerge from this story.
Thank you for following Scrum Masters Elite_UK. If the story of the All Blacks, Ian Foster, and leadership culture has given you pause for thought, please subscribe to continue exploring with us the people, systems, and long-term lessons behind every decision.